Hi. Today I'm filming a video about borderline personality disorder or EUPD, emotionally unstable personality disorders. Two names, one thing. Don't know why they changed name, but they have. Most people now refer to it as EUPD. So it's currently about 5 to 3 in the morning, which just goes to show how my life's going at the moment. Not sleeping the best, gaining weight, gaining spots, losing sleep, etc. So that's fun. So I thought I would kill some time whilst my meds are kicking in, to just do a little bit of a chat. So what I'll do is go through the diagnostic criteria and explain a little bit more about what they are and how they affect me. There's 9 diagnostic criteria for EUPD, and you have to have 5 or more of the 9 to be diagnosed. So anyway, the first one is frantic efforts to avoid real or imagined abandonment. This, in its simplest form, is a push-pull situation. You get close to people, you look up to them, you want them to be your friend forever, you want, all the good stuff that comes with relationships, but at the same time you're terrified they're going to up and leave for whatever reason. A lot of personality traits come from how you were brought up as a child. And a lot of people who fear abandonment have been abandoned as a child in some way or other. So, it's a case of bringing people in and then pushing them away so that they leave on your terms and not on their terms, because it's less scary that way. But then, of course, you're terrified because they've gone, and then you try to get them back by doing something stupid or saying something, or begging, pleading, crying, screaming, whatever you have to do, which can either bring people back or scare them away even more, which then, of course, leads the cycle repeating because they've disappeared and you're like, oh my God, I've lost my favourite person. So that happens. The second one, a pattern of unstable and or intense interpersonal relationships. Well, that's essentially kind of what I just spoke about briefly. When you really, really look up to someone, idolize them, and then you can, switch, and it's very black and white, and you can switch from going from them being a favorite person to you actually hating them and wanting to have nothing to do with them ever again and cutting people off. The second one, unstable self-image or sense of self. Yes, I struggle with this one too, sadly. I'll go into this more in another video, but I do actually have problems with my relationship with food. I don't have a diagnosed eating disorder, but I do have disordered eating, and I'll probably go into that a little bit more another day. I look at myself or even think of myself sometimes as not a very good person, and I don't like the way I look. I mean, I know a lot of people don't, but it can be quite extreme to the point where it can cause other problems on top of the already recurring thoughts of what I don't like about myself. The next one is impulsivity in at least 2 potentially self-damaging areas. I never really thought that this was something I struggled with until I realised that I've done some pretty random and potentially stupid things in the past, like going on holiday, booking a flight the day before going and spending time with people you've never met before. I've recently changed my name and I hadn't planned on doing that. I've had some wacky haircuts, wacky hair colours, and I kind of think, although not all of that self-damaging, it is sometimes impulsive and reckless. Next one, definitely struggle with. It's recurrent suicidal behaviour, gestures or threats, and or self-harm. I've self-harmed now for 11 years, and it started off when I was about 10 years old, and I don't really recall why it started, but I can recall exactly what I did, which is scary considering I can't remember what I had for breakfast yesterday. It started off very small. I had an earring, and I used the back of an earring to scratch myself with on my arm, and it gradually progressed until the point where I'm having to go to hospital to be stitched up and surgeries and that kind of thing. So that's not great. It's a really, really slippery slope to get into. It's very addictive, and it becomes a coping strategy which you fall into because you've got nothing else, or because you don't know how else to deal with stressors. And sadly, it's something that's stuck with me for so long, and it's something that I'm desperate to get out of. But at the same time, sometimes it's damage limitation because of the aforementioned suicidal behaviors. I do have suicidal thoughts. They come and go. They have done since I was about 15, I would say. First time I had an issue with that was when I was at school, and I tried to commit suicide at school, and the teachers called an ambulance from the classroom phone, which, as you can imagine, caused a bit of an issue with the fact that, you know, all of the school, all of my classmates were there, and they heard what had happened and what I'd done. And so I got a lot of I never really lost friends as such after it, but a lot of people were, I think, a little bit wary of me because it's just not the sort of thing that happened in my school. You know, not a lot of people had to deal with that, so that was quite tricky. And also the school didn't really know how to handle it either. And it's understandable, completely understandable, but for school trips, for example, I remember there was this time I was due to be going away on a school trip overnight, and the school they had a meeting with my mum, and they were like, "Don't think we want to take her with us, just in case." So that was really, really rough. A bit like self-harm, sadly it gets worse. You learn different ways to do things when you are feeling suicidal. I think with the EUPD, a lot of the time people do things that could be perceived as suicidal, whereas actually a lot of the time it's just trying to stop things, like stop what's going on in your brain and stop the pain that comes from this condition. And sometimes it's, you know, I mentioned before, impulsive, and it's got me into a lot of trouble. And I've got a few health problems now that have come from, you know, taking overdoses and things like that. I've, you know, got problems with my kidneys. Obviously at the time it can cause things that are problematic, which do go away, but some of them stick with you. And it's just like a constant reminder of what you've done to yourself, really, which is pretty awful. The next one, intense, usually brief mood swings. I mean, that's, you know, self-explanatory, really. It is very, very rapid, and it's quite scary, and I'm glad that my doctor prescribes me medication for my anxiety, because it means that I can take it as and when I feel like things are going up and down. Although sometimes it happens so quickly that you just cannot stop it. You can't do anything to change it, and you just have to ride the wave, really. It's a roller coaster, and it's horrible, and it can cause problems with people. Just generally going about your day can be difficult. You know, being in a supermarket and getting triggered by something, and that sends your mood down. Also, when I'm feeling really good, I'm really fast and hyper, and I do things that are maybe a little bit spontaneous, not necessarily impulsive, but spontaneous, which I think sometimes can unnerve people a little bit. The next one, chronic feelings of emptiness. That's more for me a case of wanting to be alone because you don't want people to be around you when you feel like crap, but at the same time wanting people around you because you're scared and you want people to protect you. So it can be quite lonely. The next one, inappropriate intense anger. yeah. Not so much in the last few years, but definitely when I have been living with people and something's caused my mood to switch, I have been known to just see red and completely lose lose all grip on myself and, throw things, yell, blah, blah, blah. And everyone gets cross, but then it's getting cross to a whole new level. But I am much, much better at learning how to deal with that one now, thankfully. Transient stress-related paranoia, ideation, or severe disassociation. So this for me definitely is another one of the main things that happens. Dissociation comes in many, many different forms. I can make another video on that specifically because it's there's quite a lot of different ways that can manifest. But for me, it's memory loss. So I will go through hours at a time during the day where I don't know what I've been doing. I think at the time I'm aware of what's happening, but then I forget and I can't recall a lot of things that happen. I think it's a way of dealing with trauma, stress, high stress situations. You go through them, you deal with it, and then I shut it off. I cut it down and black it out, which is pretty scary when you don't remember things that have happened, especially during times where I've self-harmed and things like that, and I wake up in the morning, I'm like, oh my god, what happened? Paranoid ideation. Yeah, so during the last year or two, I've had a few instances where the police have been called to double check that I'm okay. I've had welfare checks, consent reports, whatever you want to call them, and I think that has made my paranoia worse. And even though I don't necessarily tell everyone what's going on, I do worry that the police are going to come round and take me to hospital and have me sectioned again, and just little things like that. But then I think, well, I haven't told anyone. No one knows anything about what's going on in my head just now. So why would the police come? Why would people come and take me away? It's unlikely that these things are going to happen. But in my head, it's really real. And so I'll shut my curtains for days at a time, hide away, whilst at the same time keeping a social media presence so that people don't panic, even when I am feeling the lowest of the low. So that's that. So it's probably been really, really long and rambly. It's now 3:05. Should probably try and go to sleep. I've got so much to do tomorrow. I don't have to do them at any specific time or any specific order, but I really want to try and get things out of the way in the morning so that I can just try and chill out in the afternoon. But we will see, because I do not know how many hours sleep I'm going to get. And going by the spotty mess of my face, I have a feeling that it's not doing my physical self any good not sleeping, but here we are. Well done if you've made it to the end of this video. And I will probably go in more detail about some things I've talked about in another day. So anyway, thank you for watching, and I will talk to you later. Bye.